Live.
Good evening, everyone. Let's welcome Lynn Young this evening to Susie McMahon's virtual book club. And we're so glad you joined us, Lynn, and can't wait to talk about your book.
Thanks so much, Francine. It is just honestly my pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about this book. But first, let me read your little bio on the back of your book so that everybody will be familiar with you. Lynn Young is a coactive coach, speaker, and founding mama of the Badass Sagers. She believes life is juicier when we're playing risky and serving the common good. A global citizen and an ambassador for joy, she colors outside the lines and knows that life is a gift. Lynn holds an MA from the University of Colorado in International Coach Federation Professional Certified Coach and was a coach with the Center for Creative Leadership. Lynn adores color, sunshine, her amazing family, and dark chocolate. And this is your book that we're going to talk about tonight. So, welcome again. We're so excited to talk to you about this book. And as you can see, I have a few pages marked.
Thank you, Francine. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, well, have a lot of questions, so we'll get to those in a minute. But I wanted to ask you, first of all, how long did it take you to write this book, and where did you come up with the idea? Because I am and also, did you have any input with the cover? Because I love the cover.
Thank you. I love the cover too. And like you, Francine, I love books. And I love books with covers that make you smile when you see it laying on your coffee table. And books with titles that might have the message right in the title, and you might not even need to read the book. I recommend everybody read this book, but I was going for both of those things. I'm going to start there because I published the book through Hybrid Global Publishing and the amazing Karen Strauss in Manhattan. She had worked in the publishing industry her whole life, traditional publishing. And I wanted a route that wasn't self-publishing, so that I could do what I love and she could do all that she loves and bring her team together. And so that's what happened. And actually, I know there are some authors listening, and if anyone's looking for someone for their next book, I would actually recommend Karen Strauss and Hybrid Global Publishing. Super to work with. Anyway, inside of Karen's great team and our journey together, and I'll get back to how long it took in a second, she said, great, now it's time to work on your cover. And I'm an artist, I'm a creative, so that mattered to me. And the cover designer actually that Karen worked with was in Australia. And the cool synchrony for me was my book is partly set in Australia. And so it was so fun to work with the amazing Julia Curious in Australia and her company to design the cover. So this is all Julia Curious, and her credits to her. She did a fabulous job. And you're not the only one who loves this cover. And it is just like part of what I love about the cover. I'm going to hold it up here, sideways on StreamYard, is I wanted it to be colorful, but not just red. Like red is a color of passion. I love red. That's great, but I don't. Red isn't for everyone. What is for everyone is the thing that they love the most. And so I'm so glad that you love the cover. In terms of the time, I'm a life coach, executive coach, leadership coach. I've learned a lot in my years and as I coached people. So there were messages, ahas, essentially, Francine, this, perspective shifts, that when we think about life differently, it changes everything. And so I wanted to offer that to the world, to people more than just the people that I'm coaching, or more than just the people in my Badass Sagers group. I wanted it to just really go out there. I actually had the book in me for 10 years. It wanted to be born. Authors know this. The book's there and it won't go away. I actually signed up with another wonderful woman and another organization and did a whole wonderful, fabulous thing, but no book. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't her problem. It was my problem. I hadn't written the book. And so in some ways I was assisted a little bit by COVID. It's one of the silver linings. I launched the Badass Sagers during COVID, and then it became really clear that it was time for the book. I actually started writing the book and signed the contract in April of 2021. And then that month, my 90-year-old dad passed away. That
I'm
very month.
sorry.
And so that changed the timeline. And 4 months later, my beloved mama of 91 also passed away.
Oh,
And so within that 4 months, I had lost both of my parents. And so what was originally going to be an about 9 months timeline became an almost 2-year timeline. And that is just perfect. It was what this book needed to be. And obviously for me, as someone who's living my own life inside of Red Hot Living, or when life gets lifey, which is one of the things I write about, I know you know, it's about us showing up with life when life happens, not about wishing it was something else. And also not about powering through, right? Like I could have just like, yeah, no, no matter what, this book is coming out. But that did not feel like it honored the book nor myself in my own journey fully. So I'm so happy it came out actually in April. 2 years later, just this last April, in Kindle form and print form, and it's now in Audible form as well for people who love to listen to books. And it was my great pleasure to actually record the book in a studio up in Minnesota, another one of Karen's partners. Another great irony, because part of the book is set in Minnesota. So it was fun to journey up there and recorded at Wild Horse Recording Studios.
so it's your voice.
It's my voice. It's me. It's my, Francine, these are my stories. It's not my whole story, but it is a little memoir-esque, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
here's a story, here's a pivot, here's a story, here's an aha. And as you know, there are like little takeaways at the end of each tiny little chapter that can help people possibly live a little more red hot, a little differently, a little more joyously, because I think that's what we're all here for.
I completely agree. I mean, losing one parent is life changing. The thought of losing another one is more than my heart can even think about right now. So I understand that. I get that. And I also will say that when life throws hard things at you, you decide whether you're going to be pity for yourself, or you're going to take that lesson and learn something from it.
Yep.
And make something out of your situation.
Yep.
Which I well, let's just get right into this book, because
Okay. Do it.
I knew that I was going to love this book from page 6 when you started talking about recovery. So you beautifully talked about recovery the way I look at it as well. I'm not in recovery, but I have an adult daughter that's in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important to speak your truth about that and to be honest and open, because when I started talking about her and being honest, my whole world changed. You find a whole bunch of people supporting you and loving you and cheering you on. And I'm sure you felt the same way. When you first started on that journey, were you afraid to talk about recovery?
Oh, that's such a good question. In the journey itself, when I was 27,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was a little bit less done then, although I was in Minnesota. So we Minnesotans have a lot of recovery in us, and a lot of awareness about recovery. Maybe it's the long nights. I do not know. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe it's all of that. I was a little bit shy at that time, but I think the thing that trumped it for me was I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. I believe in that. And so I had been that my whole life. I was that at the time. And I believe, like you just said, Francine, when we're honest and when we share our story, then there's the possibility of it helping someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that someone else might not feel alone, which is frankly a huge part of why I wrote this book. And it's interesting because it's not a book primarily about recovery, but my own life stands squarely on the joy that I first found in recovery. And I think that all of us have, like I wrote about and I shared in the little pre-taste with Susie, we have things that get in the way of our shine. We have things that we know we're reaching for. It's maybe habitual. It's maybe something, and we know when we're doing it, and we're like, you know what? That's not me and my highest vibration or performance. That's something that's maybe a little bit addictive, and addiction can be a big, long continuum of stuff from big to small. And so I really appreciate you sharing about your daughter, Francine. And it's a journey that when we have permission to share with others, it can be really life-giving. Like it sounds like it is for your daughter as well.
It is for our whole family, because we talk about it. I try to help others and give back, and so that another family would not have to go through what we went through.
Exactly.
But, and I'm just very honest. I'm an open book, so to speak, about it. But I think that was a great, beautiful place to start with this book. And you just go from there, like so let's move on from the recovery. Like you have a love for the baton twirling. And
back in the day.
That's what I always wanted to be when I was in high school. And when I read that, I couldn't help but think, oh, we're kindred spirits. Because I always wanted to be a majorette.
Francine, it's not too late.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I mean, maybe the major
older woman
college band, but I challenge you to find a friend with a baton and at least put it between your fingers and toss it up and twirl around and catch it. I seriously.
Well, I might take you up on that, since I'm looking at some new fitness goals. It's never too late, right?
It's totally never too late. And I bet you're not the only one who would love to be. Maybe someone else has that same lost dream, and you could say, let's 3 or 4 of us, get together and let's hire ourselves a baton teacher for 1 hour, and let's give ourselves the gift of that and see what happens. It's that experimental living that I'm really interested in. And it may not be your thing now. I get that. I really get that. But whatever the thing is now,
but it wouldn't hurt to try.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. It was really challenging. And I think as a little one, I just was ready to go, ready to, you know what I mean? Compete, perform, do stuff, see what happens.
Well, and your family sounded like you had a wonderful family, like your parents. I mean, you were, I don't know, you just I felt that they loved you, supported you, and you grew up in just a loving home.
Mm-hmm. It really was. It really was. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't like, it was really resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
It was really creative. It was really steady and present, like that kind of container of support. So that inside of that, I could grow, and my brothers too.
Now, I don't think it ever has to be fancy. I just think it has to be a lot of love and support there.
Totally.
And children know that they're loved and supported. And I think that's kind of all we need. Another quote that you had in the book that I love a lot is, the depths of our love determines everything. So talk to me a little bit about that quote, because that's pretty deep.
Yeah. I realized that as I was sharing with my parents, about my parents, I teared up, and I'm tearing up again when you share that, Francine. It is a core, like there are some core principles, you can taste them as you read Red Hot Living. And one of the core principles is in the power of love, really. And it is love that is unbounded. It's love that's infinite. It's like an energetic source, with a never-ending supply. Mm-hmm. We can't love and lose love. It's like it doesn't even work that way. It actually works the opposite. Like the more we're loving, the more we're giving and receiving, and it's gifting our own life when we love each other. But the thing I want to say about that, Francine, is it first starts with self-love. Like our own loving ourself, the precious, unique collection of cells, this being that each of us are, loving it unconditionally, loving it. You see me joking, even the whatever cellulite on your thighs or whatever your zone is, you know what I mean? Like literally, it's like when we are without judgment and about ourselves as well, then we're just liberated to just see, discover, taste, delight, share, love in that kind of childlike wonder, in that childlike wonder way. So I think it's super powerful. It's a little unconventional. And I write about when I work corporately and when I coach leaders, I am in love with them, and I'm not in love with them in an inappropriate kind of way.
Right.
I am in love with the essence of this human being and what is possible for them in the world. I want that for them, and I love myself enough to let me love them. You know what I mean? It's like a wonderful two-way street. Like everybody's freed up to just like love everything in a really big splash of love, and life is juicier when we're doing that. I love strangers. You're not surprised by this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love the person I haven't met yet who's going to, check me out at the store. Everything is a possibility for more loving. And I think that's game changing for us.
I think it is too. I have always said, and I used to teach this to my daughter, you cannot love another person until you love yourself and feel that and be secure in your own body and know who you are. Then you're able to love others and love them fully and openly.
Yeah. Yeah. Love, not judge.
Love,
not judge.
Oh, that's a topic I could rant about for a long time, because
Yeah.
there is a little bit of judgment in this world, and I don't do that. I love all kinds of people, and because we're all different. There's takes so many of us to make up the world. And so if we can just open our hearts a little bit and experience everybody else's differences, we can't all be the same. We can't all be a Lynn or a Francine.
Oh, that'd be so boring anyway.
Well, especially me, since
No, in all seriousness, and I want to make the distinction between that and like I ever have a thought that's negative or hard or difficult or stops me in my tracks. Of course I do. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, I'm so self-loving that I'm just floating in the clouds all the time.
Right.
It's not that, but it is about finding the way to get curious in the moment about what is here. If I'm not judging it, I can then do something different. And so that's the real liberating power of love. So I'm so glad you picked up on that.
Yeah. I'm saying to myself, I need to read it again, because I think I might have missed something. I mean, I don't think I did. But speaking of love, I would really like it if you would read a passage for us right now. I think this is a good time to go into that on page 161.
Sure. This is towards the end of the book, just to set a little context. And the chapters all have two titles. One is kind of quirky because I'm a little quirky and I wanted it to be interesting, like, I wonder what that is. Little intrigue. And then the other is one of the concepts that I'm holding up in that chapter. So this is in a chapter called Hair. And the concept is brave daring. Our lives get a whole lot sweeter when we're energetically reflecting joy, beauty, gratitude, and creativity back to the humans who bless us with their presence. That's a really sacred act. We honor people when we let them see us in our fullness, whether we're a peacock or a dove, a panda or a porpoise. And when others gift us by sharing their true colors, well, that's an honor and a sacred privilege in my book. When we really see, honor, enjoy, and reflect, it changes the world. People seeing people, people loving one another, people being grateful for others' beautiful impact in the world. That's what I'm talking about. I've learned to express fully, freely, wildly, creatively, joyously, and authentically. And of course, so can you. True confession. The first time someone proclaimed, "You're my joy guru," it felt wildly surprising given my "Where is the Joy" history, and entirely natural, like water or air. I'd become a joy enthusiast. Not only was I no longer reaching under my bed for a sleeve of sweet comfort or a bottle to take the edge off, I was now freely accessing and sharing joy in broad daylight. So here's to your joy zones, to your zip lines of liberation. Oh, and remember, to play and delight in those spaces will gift the world. So let her rip. By the way, this is the perfect moment to think of someone in your life who has shined a liberating light for you when you really needed it. This could be anyone at all. The person popping into your mind right now, someone who had an incredibly positive impact on you and thus on your becoming. What was their name? What gift or perspective did they give you that has made all the difference? Are they still living? If so, I really encourage you to find them, reach out with gratitude, and boldly express to them the impact they had on you. Do it today or as soon as humanly possible. It's a wonderful way to be an authentic light bringer in real time, because that's the only time we have. Don't overthink it. Just do it. You will be mutually blessed. I guarantee it.
Oh, that to me summed up the whole book. I love, love, love that part.
Thank you.
Love that. Thank you. That I don't really have to think about the people that give joy because I tell them all the time. I think that's something we can do to people is I love you. You bring me joy. You create a great space in my life. I'm glad you're on the front row, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So one thing I was curious about is how did you come up with all the different chapter titles? Like that must have been a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. Like partly, honestly, Francine, I create things that I would like to attend, right? Like when I create a group, I would like to go to my thing, right? Like I want it to be like fun and interesting. So I notice what I love when I'm reading other people's books. Of course we do. And so I realized that I loved those kind of short, little intriguing chapter titles that kind of were like, oh, I have no idea where that's going, but that's kind of interesting. So it wasn't hard at all. It was actually really natural that, oh, this wants to be called that. And then it was interesting as I did it because as I wrote the book, these stories and this through line, I knew because I was telling a certain book about human empowerment or personal growth or, my own liberation with love and joy, these particular stories got to show up and they kind of led the way. They were the stories that wanted to be in the book. And so what was fun for me, though, as I was writing it was I noticed a little bit of a through line. So, for instance, when I was living my life, I mean, obviously, I knew that I loved chocolate milkshakes. That part was known to me, of course. But what I didn't notice until I was working on the titles were two different places where it actually, a chocolate milkshake appeared and was important, so that was fun. Honestly, it was fun. I came up with the titles because I wanted it to be fun for me and fun for the reader.
Well, I thought it was a brilliant idea because when you get to the chapters and you see them, you're like, oh, what's this going to be about? Like, I like it. And then I really love the way you ended each chapter with the little the little
Yeah, the kind of like the message box or the takeaway. Like,
the message box takeaway, because it's I mean I did a whole bunch of those. Here's one: be willing to learn forever. Extra credit if you notice your impact. Tears are the flow of the soul. Risk loving. It's the only way. Pivot. Just, I mean, there were so many of those in there, and I loved them all. That I was marking them all because I have to go back and remember them. I mean, how did you come up with so many? Have you been collecting those all these years?
Not exactly collecting, but those perspective shifts are it's sort of a home-based zone of coaching. Like,
Mhm.
we help people do that and find a better frame or mindset or point of view that will like really serve them. So
Mhm.
that's a tool of my craft when I'm working as a coach. Also, having them be kind of fun and edgy is part of my way of rolling, so that it's not boring. I am not actually very interested in boring. So I didn't want to create anything boring. And so, books, I like books that have those. It's sort of like the Cliff Notes, right? Like, if you're just going to read the book, you could just read all the messages and forget the book. I don't recommend you do that either, but you could, and get the takeaways. But you notice that that they're kind of, even the box that they're in is a little bit fun. Like, I knew I wanted messages in a box, but a square box didn't feel at all right for this book. So again, that was working with my great creative team. And I said, I'd like something a little more interesting. And they sent me out to there are all these tools that exist out there in the land of publishing. And when I came across this one, which actually, my book is in black and white, but this text box is actually really colorful in real life. It's gorgeous. And I've used some of those on my Instagram page because they're just like stunningly beautiful. But that made me happy to have it be splashed and a little bit messy, because I think that's what our experimental lives, where we're always learning, like you said in that one, it should look and feel like that a little bit messy, a little bit like we don't know what's going to happen, a little wild. And there was one other thing I wanted to say when you were reading those. That's okay. It just escaped me. Anyway, I wanted it to be fun. And so I'm glad that the box has served you, Francine.
Oh, it did. I mean, as I said, I read every single one of them, and I marked several of them because I was like, I have to go back and reread that or use that for somebody, or if I'm feeling down one day, just to read this, because we always, sometimes you do feel a little down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I also loved your wedding vows on page 77.
I cannot take credit for those. I can take credit for attracting the right human.
And lucky you after all these years, huh?
Absolutely true. And like any good marriage, we have worked hard to find ourselves at this moment in time. Of course we have,
Well, it's work. I mean, you don't just get married and live happily ever after. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a commitment, and it's two people with two different ideas sometimes that have to come together in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the adventure. It's not like, live like life. Actually, I think a few years in, I kind of wished that, like he would just love everything that I love, and then would life be convenient?
I remember thinking about that too,
Yeah, like
many years ago.
exactly, a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
I put them in here because they are inspiring to me, and I thought they might be useful to others as they create partnerships and lives together. And that ability to, we are all borrowing from all the good stuff that is out there.
Mhm.
We don't have to make it all up new. We just can give ourselves permission to just love what we love and let it serve us in our lives. Yeah.
And beautifully said, Lynn. Beautifully said. Because the joy in life sometimes can be the really simple things. It doesn't. It's just. I don't know. I find a lot of joy in simple living, simple little things, not the big things. Because when you go through addiction, there's another hard thing to go through that changes your perspective forever.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a huge, I believe exactly what you said, Francine. It's like when we think that joy is some, happy, splashy place of arrival where everything is, tidy and floating. It's like that isn't actually where joy lives. She doesn't live there at all. So when we realize that joy is in this moment, you and me, us all together, having a conversation, our own curiosity, our own ability to experience gratitude, to see the later day light in your window, or to maybe see, the colors on my poster. That's where the joy is. Our ability to know that it's surrounding us all the time. We just have to show up and savor it and notice it.
And appreciate it.
Yep.
Because
And
when you have gratitude, that's another thing that will change everything.
totally.
Being grateful for what you have, not what you don't have. Focus on what you have.
Yeah, I really, really agree with that, Francine. And one of my teachers, who I write about a little bit in this book, her name is Lynn Twist,
Hmm.
and she's the author of The Soul of Money. It's a beautiful book. It's not primarily about money. It is primarily a book about mindset and how our own understanding of enough changes everything. And she says what we appreciate appreciates.
Oh,
As in it
uh,
grows,
yeah.
and it's just what you said, when we see it, then it can grow. And what we shine our light on will grow. So if it's like we're going to shine the light on something that's not serving us well, that'll grow. That'll grow bigger. We can do that, but when we realize we have the power to put our lens anywhere we want it, um, and including the simple pleasure of joy, the simple pleasures of being grateful. The breath, starting with our own breath, like you and I
Mhm.
woke up today. What a fantastic, not to be taken for granted gift that is.
Uh, I just say every morning, thank you. This is the gift of the day, and it'll get better from here. Like no matter what happens, I am breathing, walking, smiling, healthy, happy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and just grateful for the moment. And you asked me before we came on if I was a writer, and I obviously said no. I'm just a lover of all authors, and getting the joy for me is getting to speak to an author that has written a book and getting to find out every detail about how long it took you. Were you up at late at night worrying about how this was going to be received? Did you have any doubts that people wouldn't love it?
Yeah, well, of course. Um, I did. What's great about where I was at in my journey at the time that I wrote the book
Hmm.
is that I was far enough along in my journey to understand that, of course, people are not everybody's going to love it.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that when I read a funky review on Amazon, it still doesn't sting a little bit. It does. But I am absolutely fine with it not being the book for everyone. I actually didn't write it for everyone, although it has some really quite universal messages in it. I wrote it for women, although a lot of men are loving it. But there is that little, it's not little at all. It's like it is wildly vulnerable when we publish a book. And when we let it go out into the world, it's not unlike giving birth. So there it is, and it came through you, and it is in the world, and now it belongs to the world. And it's been a great joy. Most of the conversations are like this one, Francine, where it's like it's touched people in ways that has been, really magnificent and fun to learn about. But yeah, it was entirely big gulp. I don't think I was waking up in the middle of the night, because honestly, by the time it was time to have it go out, I was like post due. I mean, this book really needed to go out. There's a point at which it should be born. And it was still big gulp, like really big gulp when my publisher reached out and said, hey, it's live. Or, it's like, now it's on Amazon, and now we're going to do an Amazon bestseller campaign, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm going to invite other people to read it. And all of that is like wildly out there. And also, in the land of red hot living, it's completely alive to do that, to take a risk. You noticed that risking is part of red hot living. So it was a little bit me walking the talk to risk putting a book out there in the world. And I want to give a shout out. I wrote it in a coffee shop for the most part. And the reason for that is, and it's Loyal Coffee. It's not any old coffee shop. It's a really good one. It's Loyal Coffee in northern Colorado Springs. And I share this because writers know that sometimes when you're at home and your dishes are there and your laundry is there and your phone is ringing or whatever is happening, it's really easy to spend a whole productive day doing all of that and not write. And so for me, I had to just like grab everything, almost put blinders on, and like march out of the house over to Loyal Coffee, where I would set up shop, and then the book could flow. And it was such a pleasurable space. And it flowed freely in that space. So that was me using the structure of leave home, write the book.
Oh, wow. So you really did have a structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like going to, so all of the book was written in the coffee shop.
The vast majority of it. Yep. Yep.
Wow.
A little bit at the end because I needed to be working on my computer.
Mm-hmm.
And in the coffee shop, I was on an iPad.
Well, because it's, as we all know, it's very easy to get distracted at home with too many chores. Too many chores.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very much. Yeah. So, what are you working on now? Are you working on another book?
Ooh, I actually, some book ideas have come through me, and I write them on a sticky note and I throw them into a little basket that's right over there. But no, I'm not actually working on another book right now. I'm having a blast promoting this one and helping this book rise in the world. And actually, the Audible just became available, and I haven't done a promotion yet for that. So that's what's actually next, is promoting the Audible. But also, before writing the book and during writing the book, I was hosting salons for women in the virtual space. And I'm launching my next salon in 2 weeks. So that's what I'm actually actively working on, is the first ever Red Hot Living virtual salon. And it will be small and phenomenal women. And I highly invite you, if you feel the call, Francine, or anybody else, to check it out and reach out to me. How you onboard is that we have just a short conversation to see if you're a mutual fit, because I'm curating a salon of and for red hot women to rise together. It's a 12-week weekly virtual get together on a 12-week journey. So that's actually what I'm actively working on right now. And you're all invited.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really interesting. I would love to reach out to you afterwards about that.
Fabulous, Francine. I would love that too. And the salon isn't for everybody, but it's for people exactly like you.
Thank you.
And it's a joyous, juicy space where all of those, those little boxes where you're like, I want to remember those. It will be playing. We'll be playing in that land every single week. So that will naturally serve that.
Oh, so I could get more of this. So
yes, exactly. Yeah.
That would be great. I would love that. I'm Oh, I know. Page 67, Brene Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, I love her. You either walk inside your story and you own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your worthiness.
Yeah.
Isn't that brilliant?
It's totally brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, that's one reason why when we were going through addiction with my daughter, I started talking about it, because I got tired of people hearing about what people were saying. And I said, if I tell my story, I know it's the truth.
Yep.
It's my truth to tell, nobody else's.
Yeah.
And she just said that.
Yeah. And it's yours to live and be. And, it's like the thing I want to point out too, Francine, is like, not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's going to understand. You know what I mean? We know that. And that's just fine. Like that doesn't need to stop, shouldn't stop us in living our own story and loving it and just going for it.
I agree completely. Yeah.
So what a pleasure.
Thank you so, so much, Lynn. I cannot even begin to tell you what an honor it was to talk to you about this book. I think you know from my enthusiasm how much I love this book. And I'm going to pass it on to my friends. Actually, I want my husband to read it. I think he would really, really like it. And I hope to meet you one day in person. I'm going to keep this book in case I get to meet you, and so you can sign it. And I will reach out to you later after the show and talk to you about the salon. That sounds like a fascinating. So tell people where they can get in touch with you.
Exactly. I want to tell you a couple ways, because my website, Lynn, the little symbol dash Young, just Lynn-Young.com, is a place where I hang out, and then you can sign. I actually would encourage everyone to sign up for my newsletter, because that's just interesting in life in general, and I, push things out there. But I also want to share, in the context of this conversation, my cell phone number as well. And I think I just realized it's going to go up on YouTube too. So but let's do it. Let's just do it. It's 719-440-9297. Feel free to text me and reach out, and we'll have we'll just set a time for a conversation and make it possible. And I'll share all the information with you. Also, you can reach me via email at Lynn, Lynn Young, Young, coach, COACH, @gmail.com. That's just like a direct into my inbox, all the ways, carrier pigeon, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just if you're thinking about it, do it.
Okay. That sounds terrific. Yeah, I will text you or email you. And then I'll give you my number when I text you.
Beautiful.
But thank you. This has been a delightful conversation. I just can't thank you enough, and I appreciate it.
Thank
you,
I'm gonna
everyone.
I'm gonna hop in real quick. Greetings from the other side of the Atlantic, all. I want to thank Lynn Young for coming on again tonight with our virtual book club. My good friend. I highly recommend doing a salon. I did too during COVID and after, and I love the experience completely. Francine, thank you so much for filling in for me tonight. It's time for me to go back to bed. And I just wanted to say, up next, you guys, yes, we do have another author interview this coming up Thursday. Melissa St. Clair is going to co-host / probably host with John Worley, author of The Southern Girl, which we read last year, and this year his legal thriller, Jury of One. So with that, thanks so much, ladies, for keeping our virtual book club going. Love you both, and I'm going to sign us off now. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Francine. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.